to We're Not Wizards. Can I hear it?
Yes. Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September. Now joining me tonight I've got a lady by the name of Debra Hoenig Parizek, who is on the show to talk about her role-playing system called the Everyverse RPG. It's an interesting story because it was her husband Dennis who originally designed the system, and they worked on it together, and unfortunately he passed away, and Debra has decided to take his work, take what he did and put it together and bring it to everybody so they can have a chance to play this unique system. So without further ado, here's the episode. How long have you been doing this for then? How long? And
I got laid off in December of 2014 from my last corporate job where I was an IT professional.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was about mid-2015 when we had a role-playing gaming reunion with my old gaming group, that group that my late husband and I had back in Iowa, and the children of two of the guys in there. And we had a great weekend, played for like 19 hours and had a fantastic time. And I got home from that and I realized, oh my God, I have a product. I can try to get this out the door. So I guess since mid-2015 is when I started pulling things off of the CDs that thankfully I backed up before I got rid of the computers that we used to use, and started making the books and getting out there and doing everything, promotion and so on.
You've been into kind of like the role playing kind of stuff long then? I mean, if we set the way back clock, I mean, were you kind of like I guess the kind of nerd stereotype, kind of poring over books and stuff like that?
My late husband was the nerd / geek, especially when it came to gaming. He got into it in the 70s sometime, right. With the little white box of the TSR books, Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't get into it until 1981. When I really, 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 really wanted to play a Star Wars adventure. And this was way, way before any of the actual Star Wars stuff came out. And Return of the Jedi had just come out.
It had.
No, I guess so it was 83. I'm sorry, 83.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to play an adventure after seeing that movie. So we used our rules, and Dan came up with an adventure, and I was hooked ever since then. So I finally started gaming with the rest of the group, and I was the only wife that would join in. So our gaming reunion was in 2015 was 9 guys and me.
Did you hold on to everything that you had then? I mean, did you
pretty much?
Are you a bit of a hoarder when it comes to the kind of like your RPG history, kind of holding on to things, and kind of do you keep like your character sheets and things like that? I
have found the character sheets, and I think most of everything that Den left behind, which is we've got gaming logs from all the campaigns that we've done over the years, all of his work, some of which I found like World Creation, after I'd already gotten our first book out the door.
All right.
And so I was like, V2 and or a world book, which I've heard that folks really like. Yeah, thank goodness I kept everything. I had the special box for all of his stuff, and I even kept some of the stat books that he used in development, and thank goodness I did, because I'm having such a fantastic time now, going out and getting this out the door, talking to all of you podcasters, going out to the game shops. My goodness, I never ever thought that I would be a game master. And so I've been doing that. And then we did Gen Con over here in Indianapolis at the beginning of this month. And that was a fantastic time. It was just an amazing sea of humanity. We had 4 great demo sessions, and we sold books through the IGDN booth. And it's been an amazing ride so far.
Was that your first Gen Con then?
Oh, geez. I think I was at Gen Con maybe 30 years ago or something like that, when Den and I lived up in Wisconsin. I think it was before it moved to Indianapolis. And then we headed south in the early 90s and have ended up in Texas. And so Gen Con was quite a ways away, no matter where it was in the upper Midwest, until this past month.
How did you two meet?
Oh, gosh, how did we meet?
How did you meet? Because this isn't just about I mean, it's the role-playing, but it's probably the real-life stuff as well, I think, is going to be. Indeed.
Yep, there's always a story behind it. And my story about the Star Wars thing is how I got into role-playing gaming. How Den and I met. We met in college, and I was dating another guy.
Yeah.
I believe his name was Steve, and we ended up at a party, and Dennis was late getting there because he couldn't find his girlfriend at the time.
Wow.
And so then they finally showed up, and I don't remember exactly the scoop in the party. This was like 1979 or something, so I barely remember it. And Den said that the first time he saw me, he knew that I was going to be his wife. And I thought he was a bit of a dork.
Did he have his D&D books under his arm? Did he have his Dungeons and Dragons? Did he have a staff?
No.
Was he dressed like a wizard?
No wizard, but he did have some kind of unruly red hair, and really? He was kind of skinny. He kind of looked like the classic kind of geek guy, and he did fill out in his later years, but he was pretty thin when we met. And let's see, what else? I kind of thought he was a dork because he couldn't find his girlfriend, and they were supposed to come to this party. And then we got together after that, and the rest is history. We had been together for over 25 years, and then 22 and a half we were married. Anyway, he passed several years ago from cancer metastasis. We thought he was fine, but then he left me this treasure to bring out to the world, and I'm so honored to do it. Did
you continue to play kind of while you were kind of married? Was it something that you would sit down with a group of friends? I mean, you mentioned you did the reunion, but was kind of the role playing scene, was that a big part of kind of like your married life? Was it something you met kind of once a month with the friends and stuff like that?
It sure was. For a while, he did it mostly with a couple of other guys, and then I did finally join in. I finally got confident enough. So we played, he as the game master, me as the player, for a while until I gained more confidence, and then I joined the main group of our friends Jim, Rich, and Dwayne. And then we played for years after that, pretty much weekly. And Den and I did move south, but every time we would go back to visit the relatives in Iowa, we would always get together and play. Since he's been off this plane of existence, I hadn't been playing, no, and until I finally realized that I had this treasure to bring to the world. And so I'm now finally getting back into it and getting out there and reconnecting with all the gaming culture and the gaming people. And it's been really great. I do definitely feel like I'm in with my people, my tribe.
Was it just too difficult to kind of go through the stuff? Was it just like far too many memories that any time you kind of went through a book, it was like, damn, here we go again kind of thing? Was it that kind of
It was, it had been several years, so it wasn't quite that hard. But I do really wish that he was here on this plane. I do believe he's helping me from the next plane. That's for sure. And I tell him all the time, you come and help me game master here, buddy. And when I go to these cons and or do these things, I usually wear his wedding ring and tell him, hey, focus on that and be with me. But it was kind of hard. And one of the things that we're having to do now is take the last book, which is on high-tech equipment, and updating it because of all the technological changes that we've experienced in the last few years. So myself and my chief play officer, Jim Poland, and his oldest son, Josh, and sometimes his middle son, Jared, are really, really helping out with that. Josh and Jim also came to Gen Con and helped me run games up there. And so I'm very, very grateful for all of their help. Yeah, I couldn't do it without the help I've been receiving. And, of course, from you podcasters and everyone else helping me get the word out.
Have you got kids then that have been kind of involved?
No, we did not have children.
Right, okay. So this is kind of like your legacy to kind of give out to the world in this format of this kind of this role-playing game. Let's talk a little bit about kind of Everyverse. Was it something that you started together? Was it something that that Dennis kind of started off himself and kind of took you to one side and went, Deborah, what do you think of this? What's your thoughts on it? How did it kind of come about?
Well, as I understand it, this was a little bit before I joined the group, but definitely Jim and Dennis would read novels, science fiction, fantasy novels, but there wasn't a good rule set out there, for them to use to bring this novel to life the way they wanted to. Right. So Den started off when we were in college back in the late 70s and early 80s working on this. And I guess that this friend of ours, Jim, was the original player, and he and Dennis would go to the college planetarium. And they would play there. So where else, what a great place to play a space adventure, sitting there looking up in the planetarium. And they even started, and I guess they weren't even using dice and character sheets. It was just kind of imagination. And then Dennis started working on the rules, and then it became more of official play testing. And yes, he shared all of this with me after we got married in the early 80s. And it was just amazing watching him work on this. Unfortunately, sometimes I wish I would have paid closer attention. I really had to pore over the books now and really try to get a good understanding. There are a couple things that I still am a little weak on, but in most of our adventures, especially the one-shot demos, I've been kind of skating by on the aging and so on. And I wish I would have found all of his notes sooner, so I could have gotten more things into the first book. And so it was a matter of digging through everything that I had from after he passed and trying to find everything. And some of it was difficult. Like I said, I really wish he was here to do the game mastering because he was so good at it. He always said it was like peeling an onion. with all the different layers. And we had one adventure, I think it went like 80 sessions, and that was pretty much weekly. And we started off as like, I don't know, space adventures, and ended up as guardians of good and evil, and practically gods ourselves. And so it was quite the peel of an onion, I must say.
Was it quite kind of free flowing? I mean, was that the idea of the system? It was basically almost like, here's your foundation, and whatever you want to do, you can go ahead and do it. There's the flexibility there to take into account changes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 5 different ways you can generate a character. You can start from the top of the basic, shall we say, of the character attributes, and get a number assigned there, and then let it flow down to the more specific. Or you can start at a specific end, and then there are like 3 others that you can do. The skills cascade is the same way. We call it a cascade because you can go from general, like I have a general knowledge of vehicles, to more specific. I want to be in airplanes, and I want to find a certain kind of airplane. And so you can have your skills more specific, and then you can play at any level. So if the person who has vehicle skills maybe wants to try to drive a car, but so they can try using that level of the skill. But if they want to fly their airplane, they use another level of the skills cascade, so that they have more specific knowledge and would likely be more successful. And then we tried to have just one rule, the attempt, on how to resolve all actions. So that I guess the basic thought was to keep people's nose out of the books, so that you could create a story rather than be rules lawyers.
That's kind of the type of thing where you get sometimes when you're playing, I guess any kind of RPG, you get somebody that says, okay, I want to, skillfully open the door, and it's like, well, here, let me check what you've got to check in order to do that. Or, I want to ride the horse without a saddle, standing up on its back while shooting an arrow at this tree. And it's like,
good luck with that, huh? And so we have, here's the action. Whatever skill or attribute you want to apply to it, you have your score on that. You have some modifiers, like you're trying to unlock the door, and you're really fast because there's some bad guys on your tail. So we have a modifier of -20, and then roll.
Wow.
And if you roll at or below the score that you have brought to bear, your skill or attribute score, then you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. So it's pretty straightforward and flexible.
In terms of then the playtesting, do you get like a lot of, do you try and get kind of as much feedback as possible for kind of like the playtesting side of things?
We playtested it a lot during the development years of the 90s and the early 2000s, and so got a lot of feedback from our friends in the gaming group. Now I may get some feedback when I take it out to the game shops, and I've heard that the event coordinators have gotten some feedback, and all of it has been positive.
With the feedback that you get, do you kind of make amendments and changes, or do you kind of leave it as is and kind of have a side kind of cliff notes for people to kind of refer to? I mean, you quite happy kind of making amendments and changes and as you go and kind of develop it even further?
That's probably going to be a V2 thing, but I really have not received anything too specific. I know a couple of people have suggested that we have an app that will do the dice rolling for us. And so we do have one. I just need to make it a little bit more official. And that way then get it out there for people to download and have somebody who can keep it updated for operating system changes. So that's been the most that people would really like to have a dice roller app. The other feedback that I've received has been like a little bit on the demo scenario. So I've tweaked the demo scenario a little bit, but nothing much on the actual game mechanics themselves, except for the dice rolling.
Has it been widely available then? Have people been able to, I mean, or has it only been quite recently that people could get their hands on a copy of, the Everyverse?
It's been out, the basic manual's been out since late 2015. And so the people who backed my Kickstarter have it, and then it's available on drive-through-RPG.com as electronic PDF or hard or soft copy books. And that's where the other two supplements are as well. And of course, the Kickstarter people have gotten the other two supplements. Still working on the third supplement, that high-tech equipment that I mentioned. It's also available an ebook. All three of them are available as ebook on Amazon or Barnes & Noble for their Nook. Let's see, Lulu.com is the one that has produced the ebooks for me. So we're out there in all possible forms, I think.
And I mean, what kind of made you decide to put it out there in the first place? I mean, surely it could have been something you could have just sat there and went, right, okay, it's going to be something I'm going to play with a group. But what made you decide, actually, I'm going to put this out here. I want as many people to see it as possible.
Well, I guess because it's a good system and I'm doing it in my husband's honor, I would really, really, really love to make a gaming company and continue some development. I'm going to need some help with that world book. Then also left behind, 10 Errors of Future History, which is the second supplement, but each one of those, except for the last one, has 2 adventure ideas. So I would like to produce these as canned modules at some point, and then continue other developments. A gentleman named Jeremy in Hawaii really loved the system, and so he did some development as well, so I'd like to include him. So basically, I want to create a company out of it, and then hire all my friends, and we can all game for the rest of our lives. So that's that. I have the company right now. It's mostly me and some volunteer help from Jim and his sons, as I mentioned, and so I really want to be able to make it an official company that rivals Wizards of the Coast.
So if people are purchasing the actual any of the kind of the Everyverse kind of core game, are they getting campaigns included as part of that, or are you just offering the kind of the system so they can go ahead and build their own worlds? Right now it's just the system, so that I say we provide the structure and you provide the setting. All right, okay. So it allows then, if somebody wants to play through kind of like a Star Wars game, then they can use your system. If they're wanting to do, if they're wanting to do a Lord of the Rings thing, they can do something. If they're wanting to do like a bank heist, then it's the ability is it the flexibility that you're offering then, that people then can go ahead and they can take any setting that they want, but it's allowing them to kind of bring what you're offering to the table then. Right. I heard someone might want to use it for a John Wick type campaign. We have one demo that I've been taking around to the game shops and cons where the young people are, the characters, I should say, are young people, and they are in a Earth-like near future world where they have the possibility of psychic abilities, but they don't know it yet. And so they are kidnapped to help them manifest their powers by a nefarious organization. And so, what are you guys going to do about that now? And the other demo that I've been doing is a crossover between 1876 possible Harry Potter sort of setting and steampunk.
So quite a difference there in our demo scenarios.
Mm-hmm. And how are they been received? I think it's been very positive, and how they've kind of been playing it out.
Oh yeah, they've been very positive. I find it very interesting, especially as a new game master who actually has a plan that nobody has followed really, and I'm learning the game master lament of that. That each time it's a different story. One of the scenarios that I ran up at the at Gen Con, the guys they got their powers, they broke away, and they wanted to go on a bank heist for some reason. and that
Wow.
was the running the same scenario as I did, here in the local game shops. And they never wanted to do that. They just wanted to go and hide somewhere. Or I took one of them to another research facility where they thought they were going to be safe, but maybe not. Mm-hmm. And with the other demo that we have, some people managed to contain the bad guy, like, the boss, and then went on to share knowledge with the ancient people that were at this facility that they found and revived. And another group that played it, I believe they were all killed by the boss. So it's just been amazing how each group has created its own story.
Has it been strange being on the GM side, actually having to kind of help direct and control stuff? Has that been an awful lot out of your comfort zone now?
Oh, that's pretty well outside my comfort zone, yeah. Especially as former IT professional, I'm used to the cubicle where I sit and do my little programming, and I meet with the users on occasion when I have to, or go to the meetings that are necessary. But this is a whole different world, and I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I never, ever thought that I would be a DM and then our Game Master GM, and then actually love doing it. In fact, just did it yesterday. We had one of the local game shops had a convention within their store, and so I was out there presenting it and played with two different groups, and a totally different experience with each of them. It was fun, loads of fun.
Do you do character voices and stuff like that?
I sort of, not too much, but I do try to at least adopt a different personality if the NPC warrants it. Like one of the characters is a very self-confident, charismatic gentleman, and so I'll try to adopt maybe his haughty yet charming attitude when I would talk to the players. Or at this point, he's not so much talking to the players as he's talking about them in front of them.
All right. And is that must be kind of pretty far out of the comfort zone, because if it's a convincing game, I know you get some people that just, they kind of play it quite straight-laced, and they just say, okay, well, you've met this bar owner, or here's the guy that runs the tannery, or here's the person that's the head of the IT infrastructure, and this is what you've said to you, kind of thing. And they kind of, it takes, I think, a specific type of person to really kind of act out those roles. But on the other side, you do get people that are kind of going with kind of full bravado. And I guess if you're trying to get people at the end of the day to jump on and buy the system, it's almost like, well, you have to, I can take it, you have to provide this extra bit of characterization, I guess, to provide the excitement and to get them kind of invested in it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do try, especially with the researcher who is part of the teen scenario, give her a little bit more life than just telling, basically, show rather than tell. And so I'll try to, give a little demo about, her hands might be shaking as she tries to give them an inoculation or something like that. And so I do try to provide a little bit more and not just tell them, okay, this guy is talking to you and says yada yada, and do you believe him or not?
Yeah.
And so I'm still working on that.
What's the community been like I mean, how have you found it? Kind of stepping out, out there about 4 or 5 years ago. Was it fairly welcoming? Have you found it kind of easy or kind of difficult to kind of introduce the system to people?
I found that they are very welcoming. I am excited to be doing it because of that. Like, I feel like I am connecting with my tribe finally. And it was great to apply to and be accepted by the International Game Designers Network, so that my reach is farther than just, basically here in the Houston area. Yeah. And so it's good to, be able to have people that you can discuss ideas with, as well as going out and talking to people about the system. And also, I've gotten into what is it? I guess it's a 501c3 here, a nonprofit. One of the gentlemen who was an event coordinator at a local game shop has started. It's Positive Awareness Through Ludology. And they're taking games into some of the lesser privileged areas of town, and trying to help the young children with gaming to help them develop a positive awareness of themselves, because sometimes the rest of their experience isn't so good. And it's really fantastic to be a part of that. And I also enjoyed running games at what they call Extra Life, where we were playing for charity, and so people could come and play and make a donation. Yeah, I heard of Extra Life. Yeah. So those have been very rewarding as well as fun. So were you getting actually involved in the community stuff yourself then? Were you kind of DMing at or GMing at the community stuff? Yes. Yeah? And that must be dealing with a new audience who may have some experience of playing role-playing, but again, as you said, might not have any kind of experience at all. That's right. And I have yet to be able to actually go out to and present the game with the Positive Awareness Through Ludology group, but I have been working with the in the background with the folks, and we're talking about some basic psychological concepts, so how people may be able to deal with the kids who are having some issues. I talked to a teacher yesterday who is trying to use gaming to reach kids who are ESL, English as a Second Language students, and also kids who might be having some issues now with our crazy immigration stuff that's going on over here. And so I was talking with her how she might use our system to help and work with these kids. And so I would love to hear more of her stories, and if she is able to use the system to make a scenario for them. I gave her one of our books and free of charge, and said, hey, let me know if you have any questions I can help with. Please let me know if I can help or how things are going. Because I'd like to know if she figures out how she can create a setting that she can interact with these kids and also give them a positive experience. Yeah, I think, as you said yourself, I think in this kind of day and age, there needs to be a stronger sense of community from all sides, so that people need to keep kind of pull together, because as they say, divided we kind of fall, and I think at the moment one of the ways we need a lot more positivity. We need people kind of working together, and understanding each other's differences to kind of reach a kind of a middle ground, which I think is becoming more and more kind of important. You went to Kickstarter. That must have been was that a bit kind of a departure, something a bit, that must have a huge learning curve as well, because I'm guessing that you don't just go out kind of crowdfunding stuff every single day. So was that? Yes, that was. I hadn't really even thought about doing it until I started doing just a little bit of teaser advertising in some Facebook groups, and everybody that I talked to said, "Where's your Kickstarter? Where's your Kickstarter?" And I said, "Oh, well, okay, maybe I should do one." I don't know how many times, I bet it was at least 20 times I recorded the video because I wouldn't like something or I'd tear up at the end. And of course I said stuff about, how Den had developed this and he didn't live to see it published. And it took me many years after his death to get to the point where I could put it out there. And also I got laid off from my job. So then I had more time to focus on it. And so it was a tough video. Even though I had a script written, it was still tough to do. And I was really embarrassed. Another an actual play podcast, folks were they did it, and the guy said, "Okay, we're gonna start off with the Kickstarter video," and he played it, and so I was listening in to their play, and I had to pull the earbud out of my ear so I didn't hear myself. Otherwise, I was going to be sitting there and crying. And so I put it back up to my ear. Oh, damn, it's still going. And I put it back up to my ear. Oh no, it's still going. And then trying to and I don't like asking people for money. I never have, and so even Mom for my allowance and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I'm happy that I have mostly taken care of all of the levels of the Kickstarter and gotten product out there. We still have the last book to go, and so I'm anxious to do it. But yeah, doing the Kickstarter was something I never thought I would be doing, and it worked. I'm very grateful that it worked, but oh boy, yeah, it was tough. And then to figure out how to advertise it and try to get the money, and you have to get it fulfilled in a month, or you don't get anything, and you have to fully fund it, or you don't get anything, and so it was stressful, but I'm very grateful for the response that I did receive.
Were you surprised at the response that you get then? Because, normally nowadays you hear on Kickstarters there's like so much work to do and you need to be almost like a professional marketer to kind of get traction. So you kind of put out where you kind of like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, at least we kind of tried, kind of thing.
Yeah, I put it out there with the hopes, and I had some professional help with it. Personally, I'm not sure I would recommend the professional help because I'm not sure they hit my market, and so finding the market was difficult. But like I said, I had everybody asking me for it, and I do see that quite a few posts of people will be coming up and saying, "Oh, hey, new Kickstarter! We're going to interview the folks with this new Kickstarter." And that was, I think, where I was the most successful. Finding your market is definitely it. And I'm still learning about marketing because, boy, it's tricky.
Is it? Again, is it easy to reach back out to the community and get kind of feedback on how you think they should be approaching it? Because it's really funny, but even though board games on tabletop are a huge multi-million-dollar business, and you'll see Kickstarters of board games kind of easily reaching kind of like millions of dollars. In terms of kind of, I guess, success and hitting mainstream, it's still role-playing games that seem to have the kind of the one-up. Which is, if you just have to think about, like, say, Critical Role, and the success that they had in their Kickstarter, and also what they're doing on a kind of like a day-by-day basis for the hobby, that it's like the amount of exposure the hobby in the role-playing side of games has been absolutely massive, even compared to kind of like the kind of the board game kind of industry, which to me is kind of still very, very fascinating that the board game side of things considers itself to be in a huge kind of growth period, and kind of the RPG side of things is just saying, "Hey, give me a second, hold my beer."
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
I know I would see reports off of Kickstarter and say, oh, so-and-so's funded in like a day. It's like, oh, I wish that would have been mine. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I was very envious of those that were funding so easily. And I'm so grateful that mine did fund. It funded, fully funded like in the last 12 hours or something like that. It was like, oh, thank goodness. And it actually ended the day after what was the anniversary of my late husband passing. So it was like, okay, then shower some on us, says, please, I'll take it. And the whole thing, it's just really fascinating because, boy, the folks are really into the board games. And I keep telling other folks, I said, I got to figure out a way to get this into cards and get it on a board or something. Is going out to the game shops. Everybody's loving the miniatures, and I want to do those too at some point. And they're loving the cards. Yeah, this Keyforge and Magic and all these card games. Like, we got to figure out how to break into that. So that'll be one of the tasks for the company when we finally get more staff.
Are you going to be generating or making a Heathcliff miniature?
No, he is definitely our chief barking officer, and he has retired to the bedroom now because I'm talking with someone else.
Is he jealous? He's a jealous dog.
I think he gets annoyed sometimes, especially on our walk. If I want to stop and talk to somebody, it's like, oh, geez, we're stopping and talking because Mom's got to blab again. So he'll, okay, I'll just sit down here and try to be patient. Sometimes he will stand the entire length of the leash plus my arm away from us and with his back to us. Like, oh, I get it. Yeah, you want to go. But you're going to have to live with it.
Making his opinion strongly felt.
Indeed.
About the entire interaction system.
Yes, he is. But yes, I'm sure that if we have a miniature, there will be a Heathcliff miniature. He's just too cute to not have a miniature. And he's
a cute guy. He looks like a good dog.
He's a very good dog.
And there is the We Rate Dogs Twitter account, and I think he would definitely get 14 out of 10.
Oh, thank you.
Just because he looks like a cheeky little chappy.
Yep.
As he would kind of say.
Yeah, he definitely knows who rules the roost, and I just pay the rent. But I tell him that, and I tell that to other people too. But a spiritual intuitive told me that my late husband sent him to me. Because he couldn't be around me as much as he would like to be. And so Heathcliff is my family, and he's my soul guide and teacher. So he can be a little cheeky. I'll give him that for the burden that he has been given.
I think that any guide that takes you through your life has a complete right to be a bit cheeky at you.
Indeed.
Kind of now and again, to be perfectly honest,
Indeed.
You got to have a bit of fun as well as the kind of the serious kind of stuff as well. Do you get a chance to kind of play games yourself regularly then? I mean, have you kind of touched into the board game side of things? Are you still predominantly doing kind of role-playing games? I mean, are you getting a chance to do anything like that?
For the most part, it's been me putting this out and being a game master right now. I have not gotten into just going over to the game shops and playing something else. I think I was when I did Comic Palooza here, I watched some folks play the latest version of Paranoia, and let's see. Watched a few people play Keyforge one night at another shop. So mostly observer of other games and game master player of this. I did play up at ours at Gen Con. We didn't have we had only two for the 2:00 session of at one table, and so Jim, who was the game master at that session, tossed a character sheet at me and said, "Play, okay, no problem." Okay. So I think I did a really good job of not giving away the scenario, since he was playing, he was GM in the same one that I have been doing. So that's been mostly my activities in the gaming world these days.
Are you tempted to go out and try a couple of other kind of things? Are you solely concentrating just at the moment on kind of on getting Everyverse kind of everywhere?
I'd have to say I'm concentrating on getting it everywhere.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say no offense to anybody else and their game products, but yeah, it's a lot for one person to be doing, because I'm doing pretty much everything, and I'm like I've said, I'm so grateful for the help that I have been receiving. It's a lot to do, and I'm happy to do it. I've been having such an amazing time doing it. And I remember when I first said I was going to do this, Jim asked me if there was any market left for this. So I started looking around. Yeah, it looks like it. And now I'm finding out as I keep going along, it's like, oh my God, there are all these podcasts and actual play and interview and playing out at the game shops and all the cons. I said, yeah, I think we've still got a market for this. Very much so.
I'm always eternally surprised by the number of kind of playing, live play kind of role playing podcasts that are out there, and they're always really, really good fun, because you get to know the characters after a period of time. There's one that I listened to, which is kind of finishing up at the moment, their second season, which was a quest for Magic and Steel. And the games master, the GM that's running that, she was amazing. She was doing voices, doing all the different characters. It was fun. You really kind of got to know the people. There's a couple others I listened to. Nerd Therapy being the other one, which is just a group of people trying to get their way through a campaign for goodness knows how long, and as they say, with varying degrees of success. And they've got characters dropping in, characters dropping out, people dropping houses on each other, people setting each other on fire, taking into, that kind of, that's just kind of that kind of absolutely fantastic type of scenario. So they're definitely good fun and ones that I can kind of continue to kind of listen to, especially Quest for Magic and Steel, because they're just one big huge family. So it's the dad, and it's like about four or five kids basically all playing it. And if they're all kind of, they're not young, they're kind of but it's a fun podcast, because they know each other behind it, and they know each other very well, so they're able to play each off each other. That'd be a hoot. Kind of very well, so it's kind of good.
Yeah, I had a family play. I had a family play at one of the conventions, and the dad played the bad guy, and he actually killed one of his kids' characters. I thought that was okay, Dad. It was kind of fun, and the kid was a little shocked, but took it pretty well. I thought, good. You guys got a good relationship there.
Exactly. Which is, exactly. Nothing better than that. Have you figured out what your elevator pitch is for Everyverse yet?
Well, kinda. I had to give one, the gentleman who wanted to do the John Wick campaign, perhaps using our rules, I had to give him one. And so, should I give it?
I think let's do a drum roll.
Okay, go for it.
And
okay. Well, we have 5 methods of generating a character, and the skill scores and the attribute scores are all based on the same scale as the IQ scores, the standard distribution, where 100 is the average. So you know that if you have a score above 100, you're above average, and below, you are below average in whatever skill or attribute. We roll 4d10, and then that's part of the attempt. With the attempt is whatever the action is, and the skill or attribute score that you bring to bear, plus or minus modifiers, and look it up in a table that will give you a resulting score of 60, somewhere between 60 and 139. And if you roll at or below the skill score or attribute score for this action, then you succeed. Otherwise, you fail. Our skills are in cascades from general to specific, so that you can have a skill like vehicle, and then you can get more specific with air, fixed wing, airplane, 3 different levels, and then you can play that type of a skill at any level and bring to bear general knowledge versus specific knowledge. We also have equalizers, so you can make your character a little quirky and get some points that you can add to your skills. And or if it's a minus equalizer, like anxiety, for example, that's a modifier for all of your rolls where you might be anxious. Plus, we have tables for conversion from other systems, and also some rules that you can play a character and develop them, kind of like a karma system. The end.
And you can do anything at all.
Any setting that you like.
So if you want to be anything at all. So if you want to be various condiments in a fridge, deciding how to get out of that fridge, this is the system for you.
Yep.
If you decide, well, I'm just grasping that out of thin air.
Well, somebody that I talked to had a character that was a unicorn detective. And so I suppose you could be a unicorn detective and investigate whatever unicorn detectives investigate. Playing this, right?
Absolutely. It's like who's been leaving the glittery horse poo everywhere, and it turns out it was a unicorn detective.
Could be.
If people want to get a hold or find out more about the Everyverse RPG, where can they find you on the internet web?
We are at www.pardenusgaming.com, and that is Parden for Parizek Dennis, Us Gaming, and all one word.
Okay. And is that where that comes from then?
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. And what we'll do is I will make sure I get all the links from you for where you can actually also buy the books as well.
Yeah. Okay,
and
great.
all these other things.
All of them, the website is linked to all the places as well.
So there you go.
Except for maybe Amazon.
That could be Amazon. Schmamazon. But we'll make
who doesn't know about Amazon?
Exactly. But we'll make sure that we put all the links in the show notes so that we have got notes to show. If you good people want to find out where we exist, go to the internet and search for We Are Not Wizards and you shall find us. But do it well, because otherwise we might just decide to come out and find you instead. But we've got our website, we've got our blog, we've got our Instagram, we've got our Twitter, and you can find us on all the podcast catchers. Some of them have got the word pod in them, some have got the word cast in them, some of them have got none in them, neither pod or cast, which is strange, but therefore true. If you like what you've listened to tonight, check out the show notes. If you want to help us out a bit, tell other people about us, where we exist. If you want to do something even more special for us, jump onto Apple Podcasts and give us a rating or a review. And if you are going to be giving us a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes us far too big-headed. But don't give us 1 star, because it makes us cry. Give us something like a 5, because it's in the middle, and it's a little bit average. And we are just a little bit average, basically. But the person who's not been average is the rather wonderful, the rather fantastic, I bring you, Debra Hoenig Parizek. Thank you very much for coming on, Debra. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you as well.
There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Debra?
I don't think so. I know I'm not.
I'll take that. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. I might be. And the other thing is to
I suspect you are, actually.
So don't even start there. Remember, I'm editing this and it can all go very nastily. And the other thing is to say goodbye. So it's goodbye from Debra. Say goodbye, Debra.
Goodbye, Debra.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye. Remember, stay safe. Roll sixes. Make something awful. And if you fancy just role-playing, but you don't want to be here, there, maybe you should be everywhere in the Everyverse. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.